Welcome to Reverb Roundtable, a weekly show that brings the brightest creative minds and digital producers in sports, entertainment, politics, news, and more to share their stories and strategies that will help you become a better leader and creator. This podcast is hosted by Clark Campbell, the founder and CEO of Reverb Agency, an event media production company where the goal is always to make great events look great online. When it comes to making real-time content, you have to balance the get the moment with get it out quickly, and sometimes you have to miss one in the pursuit of the other. On today's episode, we are joined by three incredible sports photographers: Shauna Lockwood from Auburn University, Chamberlain Smith from Mississippi State, and Fred Daniels, who we met while working SEC championships. In this conversation, we dive into how they balance this moment versus speed game, the technical workflows that help them move quickly, and we hear some pretty great stories. Now, onto this week's episode. Here's your host, Clark Campbell.
Well, thank you, Tessa. You did such a good job on the introduction, and we also snapped, and you were here on set.
I'm here today.
Somehow we convinced Tessa to join us on this week's podcast. Why?
Well, because we're talking to photographers.
We're talking to photographers.
I'm a photographer.
Yeah. It took a lot of kind of trying to convince her to come over here. But you know what? Tessa's so good at photography and creative direction that we thought, why not bring Tessa into this conversation? As she said, we're interviewing some amazing photographers from the Southeastern Conference. We absolutely love their work. I'm just going to go ahead and call out their work real quick. We have Chamberlain Smith. She was from the University of Georgia. She just took a new job. We'll talk about that in a second. Look at these amazing photos. Fred Daniels, he's a contractor and he does all kinds of work from the SEC to really big clients. I don't even know if he's allowed to talk about them. They're so big. We'll see what he says if he can talk about them in a minute. And then Shauna Lockwood. I'm a little biased on inviting Shauna because she is a photographer at Auburn University. Auburn University.
At the university.
It's the only university I care about. And so look at these amazing photos that they've all done recently. We're going to bring them in here. If you're watching, some of you are listening, but you need to go look at our YouTube page here. Let's bring them in. Chamberlain, Fred, and Shauna. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good to have you here. Thanks for being here. I just found out right before we started, they hadn't even met.
No, none of them had met, which is
crazy.
We didn't know that.
We did not know that. But Shauna, meet Chamberlain, meet Fred. Congratulations. We're all
You're now friends.
Good morning, everybody.
We're around a round table.
Yeah.
We have to be friends moving forward.
Now.
So we this is our first time having multiple people on the Reverb Roundtable, and we love helping creators and leaders just get better and be better storytellers in real time. And photography, Tessa, it's important, right? Why is photography so important? I don't know. I'm putting you on the spot real quick.
It encompasses an emotion a lot of times, especially in sports. You can freeze frame something incredible that happened that becomes iconic sometimes.
So true.
It's just, I love photography. It's so fun.
Yeah, and Tessa really does an amazing job with gifts and taking moments that can just be so powerful. And photography helps us tell better stories. So does video, but we think photography is powerful. And so that brings us back to why Chamberlain, why Shauna, why Fred. We have interacted with them some on Instagram over the years. We've worked with Fred. Chamberlain was the first in this conversation that I was I saw her Instagram, the photos she was doing at University of Georgia. So we're going to start with her. And I was like, what? I didn't know you could do sports photography this good. It was incredible. And I reached out to her, and some of you may know Chamberlain from a little incident. We might be able to throw it up on the screen here in a second. She was, I heard, trucked by a University of Georgia football player at an Auburn game in Auburn as her cat walks through. Please, as much cat as you want. That softens the blow, no pun intended. Chamberlain, good morning. Tell us real quickly, you have some breaking news. Tell us about yourself, what you've done at Georgia, and where you're going next.
Well, I started at Georgia in 2019 as an intern with absolutely no sports experience. So my sports portfolio has been built entirely in the past 18 months, and I have a lot to show for it now after being at such a big school for that short amount of time. And I was just hired as a full-time staff photographer at Mississippi State. So I'll be leaving one Bulldog school to go to another one full time. So I'm really excited about that.
Go Bulldogs is universal now.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Well,
it's incredible. Did you say 18 months?
Yes, I started August 2019, and that was my first introduction to sports, really.
That's awesome. Thanks for being here. We're going to ask you a couple questions here in a second. I'm going to hop over to Fred. Fred, tell us where you live, what do you do, and your contractor. We work with you at the SEC. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, I'm living in Atlanta right now. Originally from Chicago. It's too cold up there, so I'm in the South now. It is. I've been working with the SEC for 3.5 years now. Started with the SEC championship game in 2017, I want to say. That was the first one. Shout out to Lauren. She reached out to me via Instagram. She seen what I was doing with the Big Ten conference the prior years. She said, hey, what you're doing for them, can you do that for us? And I was like, yes, I can. And I've never shot football before. I was like, I don't even know if I have the right lenses for this because it's such a big field. I'm so used to just basketball and like up close things. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready. And I just was put in there. It was like sink or swim, and I'm still swimming. So thankful.
You made it.
You made it.
I'm making it. Still making it. Thank God.
Yeah, you are.
You're right.
Yeah, you are. And Shauna, last but not least, War Eagle, by the way. Shauna has just been at Auburn for a short time, but she has an extensive career so far in photography with some big brands. Shauna, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I tripped and fell into sports photography. I got a master's from Auburn in technical writing, which is the antithesis of sports photography. It's like you're working on documents, and it's a lot of it is just kind of what we used to call CYA documents at Southwest Airlines, where it's just you have to have everything and make sure the FAA signs off on it. Because I worked on what was the quick reference handbook, which is what they use in an emergency in flight. And that was how I got started. That was my first job out of college. But while I was getting that degree at Auburn, I worked with the yearbook on their photo staff, just as kind of like, oh, this is my extracurricular, like whatever. I'll meet people. It'll be fun. But then they sent me out to do football games, and I wound up really loving it. Still didn't think of it as a career, but I just really enjoyed it. And so I just talked to everybody and kind of made connections, and thank God for Cam Newton, because we had a championship season while I was in college for the yearbook. And so then that brought in all this national media, and it basically directly led to me getting a job because I met my future boss that way. Again, not intending to work in sports, but just kind of naturally being super interested in it. And then, so I worked at Southwest for a year and pestered this one particular contact about getting a job in sports, because I knew pretty early on into the cubicle life that I love Southwest, but I just wasn't really meant for, I think, being in a cubicle and working on documents. And I just got really fortunate that at that time, his company was being bought by USA Today. So sort of everything, literally, it just kind of the dominoes sort of just lined up for me. I really feel like I tripped and fell into it. And so the role, though, to get in there full time with sports was as a photo editor. And so that's what I wound up doing for 6 years with USA Today. And I shot as much as I could because that was really where my passion was. But that got me into editing the Sochi Olympics in 2014. Wow. And I graduated in 2011 from Auburn with no intention of working in sports. And then that amount of time later, I got to do this really big thing. So it's just crazy how stuff works out that you don't even plan on remotely. I stayed with editing for 6 years. And 2017, I asked them, look, do you have a city where maybe you don't have enough photographers that I could go and shoot and not be putting a freelancer out? And they were like, well, we got a few, and Houston was one of them. And I'm like, okay, it's warm there. So sure, I'll do that. And after having lived in Texas before, I figured, culturally I could just plug right in. And then that turned out to be the World Series season they had.
No big deal. Just walked into a couple of moments, huh?
Literally very much tripped and fell into a lot of stuff and was very fortunate. But yeah, I really wanted to do professional sports. I'd covered a lot of Auburn football, which was cool. But hi, kitty.
If you're listening on the podcast,
there is a cat.
But hold on, real quick. Chamberlain, what's your cat's name, phone number?
Her name is Moon.
Moon.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. That was very important in the middle of Shauna's talk.
Sorry. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, so I got to Houston at a pretty good time and got to do some professional sports, and just really that cemented my love of just getting to do the photography side of it. And from that on, I really wanted to move into doing photography full time versus editing. I learned a lot from the editing, and as we'll be probably talking about, like on a wire service deadline kind of situation, I learned a lot. And yeah, it just happened to kind of work out as I was really gaining that momentum of like just that wanting so bad to be a photographer and not an editor. The Auburn job opened up, and I really hadn't planned.
Right? You just started in January?
Yeah, last year I got in like a nice 2 months before the shutdown. So it's been an experience.
Right on time.
Yeah, but it's been really good. So
that's amazing.
That's kind of my story.
Tessa, we'll get into the speed in just a second, but we have a question about like storytelling, and I'm going to leave this out there for all of you. What role does photography play in storytelling? Whoever wants to answer this, I'm curious. From a philosophical level, Shauna, I know your background is in writing. I'm sure you tell stories, Chamberlain, with photos. So I've seen, I know you're thinking about it. Fred, same with you. So whoever wants to answer it, what role does photography play in actual storytelling? Because it's not words, it's images. Putting you guys
yeah, I think
we didn't
for
give you that
me,
story at a time.
I have a journalism background. That's what I studied in college, and I got a photojournalism degree. So I learned like very early on how photos play a role in telling a journalistic story or a written story. So it's more than just an art piece that accompanies words. It's something that can stand alone on its own, and you're able to look at it and understand kind of the direction of where the story's going, or more of the emotion that you wouldn't see necessarily just from reading something. I think they're both equally important, but photos do a totally different job in the role of storytelling. It's just so much more visual, obviously.
Sure.
That's such an interesting approach through journalism. That's also kind of
we talk about
both of us like also look to journalism to kind of lead where we go. And so we love that it all just keeps coming back to that, honestly.
We always say that if we were to hire someone tomorrow as a photographer or videographer for our team, they need a background in journalism. So that's awesome you said it. Fred, Shauna, either one of you have a thought about it?
I think it's very important because we tend to see stuff that a video can't see. We can show a perspective that if it's on TV or anything, like they're not seeing. We can show a fan that's given an emotion that is happening to the game that, people are not seeing. So it lets them in to, what's really happening. And like she said, emotion, it's a big emotion thing. And, I'm a person I remember when I was younger, I would look at books, and remember the books will have like the section for just pictures in the middle. I would flip straight to the pictures first because I want to see, like I'll read later. I just want to see what the pictures were so I can get an understanding like, oh, so this is what they're going to talk about. This is something that was happening at this time. Then it'll give me a better understanding when I read. It's like, okay, now I understand their facial emotions or this mad emotion, whatever it is. But with sports, I think it's a, very good thing that photography is there because we are like the backbone of documenting, I think.
It's good. Shauna, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about like the visual literacy, I guess, of the students now, like, and the people that are looking at our work, especially if you think about like recruits and stuff. I'm like, I feel like photographers, it's on us to keep up with how modes of storytelling now and kind of like the visuals that they're drawn to, because I'm thinking too about like not only from a historical perspective for like the university and the students that are here, but the students who might be thinking about coming here. I've been thinking a lot about just trying to, and Chamberlain, I know you do this really well, like keeping up with sort of the current visual styles so that like people, when they see your brand, they connect with it a little bit more, and just trying to keep things fresh and challenge yourself with that, because I feel like the way that we're telling stories is always changing. And that's one of my favorite aspects of the job, is trying to keep up with what the current version of that is, and also maintain my own style, but also exploring like tones, and not even just an expression on somebody's face, but like how you can tone it to also round out that feeling of that emotion. Because like warm colors will do something to you, and then cooler colors will do something to you. You can shift a whole mood of something with that. So that's actually just one of my favorite parts of the job, is figuring out how to bring emotion in with even more than just like an expression that you see in a picture.
That's fascinating. I'm not even I can't even say I'm a professional photographer at all, but the visual literacy you just described, I get it. I totally get it. So from moving from story to like workflow, Tessa has a question, just a second, but I'll set it up with this. Many photographers that are at events, whether it's sports, entertainment, news, whatever, there's a balance between getting the right moment and how to get it out quickly. Like it's very hard. It's very challenging because you don't want to miss a moment. Because sometimes if you jump the gun, so you've got to really be great at your workflow. Tessa.
Yeah, so I mean, there's multiple parts to getting those moments. Part of it's a gut feeling, and the other part is like getting it so that your workflow is in order, so that you know exactly what you're doing. So I was just curious, like, what are the workflows you all work with in order to get stuff out quickly? Because I know all you probably have a different workflow that works for you.
I'm going to start. My workflow is pretty sporadic, I'll say, depending on the event, depending on the location of my gear, my computer. That's a big thing for me. If we're basketball and I'm courtside, if it's football and I'm in a back, media area, that also determines how fast I get stuff out. It wasn't until I think about 2015, I realized that photographers had runners, to run their cars for them. That was so new to me, because that was around the time I realized that, these Instagram accounts were doing like live posting. I'm like, what is this? Like, I have no idea. I reached out to a guy. He's like, oh yeah, I just have a runner. So I'm thinking he's doing this on his own. And I'm like, oh no, he has help. So that, for my workflow is really just depending on where I am and the needs of the client as well. Because if the client said, hey, we need this, then I'm going to produce at that level, no matter how, I do it, it's going to get done. But if they say, hey, just take your time and, get us stuff over time, then I'm going to make sure I stay for that extra play. If it's a big play, I know it might be another play. You can, sometimes with sports, you can feel that energy and you can know like, okay, somebody's getting hot right now. He might catch another pass, or he might dunk this, or still, it's something that you can feel with sports that's like, all right, I might need to stay, or I can go ahead and go and, drop this for the client.
I think that's like one of the most fun things about photography, is that the longer you do it, especially in like a live event sports environment, the better you can feel what's going to happen. And like, obviously you can't always predict it, but you can kind of feel where it might be going. And that's just such a fun thing to watch build up over time.
Yeah. Shauna, Chamberlain, either of you?
Chamberlain, you can go ahead if you want.
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on what the event is. For me, the client is Georgia, because that's just who I work for. So it's kind of the same people across the board every time, but the sport kind of differentiates what my workflow needs to be. Because a football image is going to need to get out a lot quicker usually than like a soccer image, because you have a lot more eyes on what's happening. So we use any kind of timeout that we have to try and Wi-Fi transfer or drop photos onto our phone that we can edit really quickly and either text or put in like a Dropbox for whoever's running the social account. We do that for like our biggest sports, football, both the basketballs, gymnastics. And when it comes to the other sports, normally I would just wait until there's a halftime, there's a break, and then I go in and try to edit a couple that I could send to the sports information director who's running the account when they don't have dedicated people to do it. But the bulk of the work comes like at halftime or after the game. But the quickness factor is like, okay, there's a media timeout. I have 3 minutes to get, a touchdown photo out to our social person because we want it turned around instantly. So people watching the game at home see the play, and then within a couple minutes, they see it on their Twitter feed.
So did you say that you were editing those images on your phone?
I do. I guess some people might just send them and the social person would edit them, but normally I just have something kind of ready in, Lightroom Mobile, and I'll paste it onto all the photos, make sure it looks okay, and then do a quick batch edit and export because it might be 3 or 4 photos. And you just have to get kind of a quick workflow down of knowing what works for you, because that could take a long time on the computer, but you might only have 1 to 2 minutes to do that during a game so that you don't miss what's happening next because your hands are locked up doing something else.
Oh, that's incredible. Now that lets you stay on the field. So that's great. We should try that.
Yeah, we should try.
We should give that a try.
We're going to try.
Taking notes.
Taking notes over here.
Show notes.
Oh, yes. We talk about this at the end, but we are providing show notes for this episode. At the end, we'll tell you how. Yep. But we'll have notes on
Shauna,
all these
go
good
ahead.
things they're telling us.
You got it now.
Yeah, so I've edited Super Bowls and Olympics and all this stuff where they literally have a line in the camera and we just get a live feed straight from the camera. So my level of speed is like that. Our boss, we were going up against AP and Getty for a lot of years, and I mean, they still are, but you're trying to compete with these people who have been doing it for a really long time. And it wasn't like we were spring chickens, but we were kind of the newest on the scene. And our biggest competitive edge was speed. If we could be faster, if you can get it on the line sooner than everybody else, then that's something, because now it's basically kind of what gets out first, kind of what takes off usually. So for years, I just had it drilled into me, speed is the biggest thing. And so when I get to Auburn, at first it was just thinking of sending something at the end of a game was I'm sorry, I can't do that. I have to send a live feed. And so one of my things I did when I first got here was get Wi-Fi transmitters for the cameras so we could just send out. I linked it up to Photo Shelter because I had done FTP transmits before with my USA Today work, and I wanted to kind of bring that here, especially as we went into a pandemic football season where they were talking about maybe not having news agencies. And I was thinking we might have to be a pool agency for everybody and create a live caption edited news ready wire from just, 2 photographers and some students. So I was trying to figure out ways to do that and not miss anything for Auburn, because we're also doing we're the Auburn photographers. So we need to stay on top of that and not miss anything. And so we thankfully had some students who were willing to edit. They couldn't be, at the event, but editing kind of kept them involved. So for football, I just set it up so we both had an FTP drop folder, and then we had student editors set up where at their apartments, just live editing our stuff and getting it out there. And then social could pull from that same thing. And they had a social editor that was working on some stuff, and that let us, kind of like Chamberlain was talking about, you can stay out there and not miss anything, but you also got to, you send your stuff and you make sure you get locked back in and don't get too caught up sending for too long. But that's the workflow I'm kind of going with now. And I'm doing it with other sports too. It's not super refined, but it's still, I'm just dropping some stuff into the FTP for social. And then I worry about kind of doing my full caption edit stuff for the SEC portal at the halftime and the end game kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, having that live feed takes some pressure off.
You're y'all are giving us so many questions that we're going to add that we did not prepare you for. Giving you a heads up. This is so I'm going to jump right to gear, because I know some people that are listening just immediately they judge you based on your gear. Sadly,
photographer's favorite question. So ready, set. We're going to start with Chamberlain, go to Fred, then go to Shauna. So gear, give us your gear in 15 seconds. What do you use, Chamberlain?
We've been shooting with Canon 1DXs, myself and the other photographer. That's been the best thing that we've found for speed when it comes to getting a lot of frame rate per second when you're trying to capture a big play. So Canon 1DX Mark II or Mark III, and then always a 70 to 200. That is just like the sports photography workhorse for us. It works for every single type of event. And then if you end up at something where you have to be further back, a football game or new COVID precautions at basketball where now you're shooting from the rafters, we'll bring in a 300 or a 400 to make sure we can still see what's going on and you don't lose that with a shorter lens.
Fred, go.
Nikon D4, 70 to 200 lens, 35 1.4, and I usually rent because I broke. Clark, you were there when I broke my 24 to 70.
Yeah.
I dropped it at the coaches' meeting when they were shaking hands, and it was so crowded, and it fell. I said, yeah, it's broke. But I had to pick it up and keep going. So I'm still renting that, and recently just rented a 120 to 300, and that was like the best thing I could have shot with. And I'm going to try to save up some money and get it for myself. But that's all I'm really shooting with. That's all I need. It's my workhorse, and I love it.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Shauna, go.
Yeah, so another Nikon photographer here. I know.
50-50 here.
2 D5s, and I've been favoring a 300 lately just because I like it's the reach, but you can carry it without a monopod. 400 for football, but yeah, 70 to 200 for pretty much everything. I have a 50 to 1.4 that's just mine, and I got really into shooting basketball with it last year. Not as much this year because we're further back, but there's just something about a prime lens that look, it's just delicious. Yes. And I want to get an 85, and then a 14 to 24 is just kind of always like in my bag in case I need to do something, but it's been less so this last year because we can't get close. So that wide angle is kind of like, normally get up in somebody's face and do cool stuff there. But that one's been kind of staying in the bag a little more.
Yeah, they're not all about being up in people's faces right now.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't get it.
The lens will come back around.
Okay, y'all mentioned something about Wi-Fi. Go, Tessa.
Yes, you talked about your Wi-Fi workflow, which I found really interesting because we've not actually done that. And so if you could dive a little bit more into that, I would love to kind of hear how that works.
Yeah, I'm actually curious about this editing on the phone thing because I've just been sending straight to.
Yeah. For us, the reason we've used Wi-Fi is because we just make sure that our cameras are ones that have Wi-Fi capability, which I guess, I don't know about Nikon, but most like upper level Canons have that. And you can just connect the Wi-Fi either to your computer, a tablet, your phone, but the phone is what we always have on the field. So you connect through the Canon app with the Wi-Fi from the camera, download what you want, and then I use Lightroom Mobile to edit. And this is because we don't have the FTP transmitters. We don't have, Ethernet cable. So we've had to figure out what is the workaround for us. And then if the camera doesn't have Wi-Fi capability, you can use a Wi-Fi converter SD card and plug it into the camera, and it automatically turns the camera into a Wi-Fi enabled camera. So I've had to do that for a couple things, but that's been the only way we could, make it work because we didn't have those other things.
Nice.
Shauna, have you or Fred ever used Wi-Fi with any of your events?
This is new to me. I'm literally taking notes. I'm like, okay, FTP, Wi-Fi cards. This is, like I said, mine is so just, I'm a little more laid back. My workflow is not so demanding as these two, which is just like, knowing that it can be at that level is like, oh man, I have a lot to learn, which is I'm glad I'm listening, and like I say, taking notes. But no, I have not worked with Wi-Fi at all.
Yeah, no, part of mine was born out of initially that thought that we wouldn't have news media there. And as coming from that background, I knew I wanted to create a live feed, and having worked events where I'd seen all these setups for live feeds, I just was like, oh my God, we can't not do this. And then it turned out they had media there, and it wasn't as much of an onus on us to provide that, but it's still, I had put the system in place. And at that point I was like, I loved it because during an event when I first started last year, they'd ask for stuff for social, and I was out there and I was like, but I don't want to just go back for a tweet. Like, that's important, but also I don't want to miss something just so we can have a tweet that, might get 15 likes. it's just, for me, I was really struggling with that dynamic.
I'm telling
of like,
Josh Wetzel you said that. I'm telling Josh.
I know. No, it's
I'm just kidding.
it's important and it's a part of it. But the thought of missing a score for something that's a little more ephemeral, like I kind of wanted to find a way to do both. And so now that's what we do. So it was kind of like born out of that. And I mean, for the last few months, we weren't able to use students. So I was covering 14 sports completely by myself. And if I could just offload a little bit of the work of running back to the room to try to do this thing. And also for some sports, we're sending to an SEC portal. And like, I just felt like being able to transmit during a game gets it to social. And then it also gives me my selects already on my computer. I don't have to ingest a card. I just like run some stuff to the SEC and make sure our local media is taken care of. And then I can kind of get back to work. So for me, it was kind of part of, yes, we can have a live feed. And I love that our social can kind of reflect real time what's going on. But it also was trying to reduce some of my sort of pressure and workload at events because there's just kind of so much going on right now. But yeah.
COVID question for y'all. COVID question. What is the biggest thing you can't wait in your workflow and in your job to return post-COVID? Is it having more people close by? Is it
using
the mask?
a really wide lens?
The lens. Like, what is it you're most excited about? Say again.
Totally proximity, because I feel like going from the news side to the team photographer side, the biggest difference was proximity in my first few months here before the whole world shut down. But I had trouble getting close because in my world before, we were media and we had a line and this is where we stayed. And then suddenly I was expected to get beyond that line. And it was a really weird transition for me. And then as soon as I'm like accepting and embracing that, we have a pandemic and I can't get close to anybody. So I'm dying to get in there because when I see, especially like our men's basketball team after a game, like celebrating and going crazy, knowing last year I was like right here all up in that. And this year I'm just kind of watching from a distance as they're mid-court, like losing their mind. And I'm just like, okay, it's fine. That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Proximity.
Yeah.
Shauna, proximity. Chamberlain, Fred, go.
I'm going same. I literally just shot the Hawks versus the Lakers game. And I thought, because I do work for the Hawks as well, and they're just like, oh yeah, you're covered to get on the floor, but the boxes are back now.
Yeah.
And I get to security, they're like, no, you're cleared for the 100 level. That's it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Great. Well, I rented the 120 to 300 lens, but it was just so weird to just shoot at the 100 level. And, that angle, it just seems like the same. And you're trying to get, different perspectives. And it was tough. So I definitely agree with proximity. Like, just give me back. I don't have to cross that line yet. I would love to cross that line, and, be a little bit closer than just media. But if you can get me on the court, right now, I'm fine. That's what I'm looking for.
Chamberlain.
Yeah, I agree with that because you just get pushed back so far for safety reasons, but it feels like you miss a lot of things that you normally would have made into amazing photos. So I miss the proximity. I miss the access, being able to go into the locker rooms and shoot something, or go into weight rooms or on the buses when they're going places, because you just lose a lot of that intimacy that you might normally see in a photo, and it becomes just a lot more distanced, which makes sense for what's going on, but people just want to feel together right now. So you miss that in the photos that you're seeing because the photographer can't be in that position all the time.
So I have a question.
Fred, go.
I have a question for the team photographers. Is like, even though it is COVID, I know they're like pressing you guys to, we still have to get this content. So they're not allowing you to even still, because I see some people are like some schools are allowing like one person to be like that close. Like, okay, we still understand that it's COVID, but we still get one person at least to get, those shots, and they're not allowing. And then you're saying that they're not even allowing you that close, not even team buses, not even.
It depends on the school, I think.
Okay.
Like a lot of states, I think a lot of, different schools are approaching it differently. Some may be testing. Oh no, Chamberlain.
Oh no.
Well, we can chat until she comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Auburn, we've been pretty restrictive with stuff. And I know some other schools I've seen are getting closer. So I think it just kind of depends on the school. But right now, for us at Auburn, we are keeping our distance, and I'm just telling myself it's temporary. Just trying to remember that.
Couple more months.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's the complexities this year in the last 12 months it made it so much harder for videographers and photographers, and it puts the pressure on all of us creators to be more clear and be better storytellers, even though we don't have the access that we used to. I have a little bit slightly off-topic question. Sorry, Tessa, to take this. You can ask. Tessa can ask all the technical questions. She's like,
Go forth.
So when it comes to like balancing when you're not under the real-time gun, like what are some of the things you gain? Because I've looked at Chamberlain's and Shauna's Instagram, and there's such amazing beauty and aesthetic and visual literacy. I got it. Visual literacy in your what do you get back when you leave real time? Or maybe the question is, what do you lose whenever you go real time? What are some of the fundamental principles, workflow, things that you lose when you go from you have time versus I have no time? Philosophical question, I get it. I hope it's not too big.
Right. So you mean like doing event stuff versus studio stuff?
Yeah, like I saw this week you were in the dugouts with the teams. Mm-hmm. Like, what are some of the you gain some things that probably make you feel strong or powerful or more in control? Like, do you lose control? Do you lose time? Do you lose what do you lose and gain when you leave the real time environment when it comes to maybe storytelling?
Well, with studio stuff, I had not done any of that before this job. So I've really just been like obsessive about being able to control light and do that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to bring that into my event stuff more, not just with like strobes and stuff, but to try to really kind of do some like the NBA arrival type stuff and that sort of thing. Yeah. So my current mode is I'm obsessed with controlling light because it's just not been something I've done a lot of before. And so right now I'm eating up all these opportunities whenever they're like, hey, we're thinking about the story with this portrait. I'm like, got it. Where is it? Like, let's do it. And I'll bring all this stuff that's completely unnecessary, but like, I'm just having a blast kind of like being a little extra with that because it's new to me. So I have a lot of editing to get through. There's some live events that might still be kind of needing a second edit because I'm sitting in there with my like, ooh, like this color looks cool with this. But yeah, that's probably kind of a pandemic thing where we're just like, I know they're trying to also do a little more of those stories to bring people in a little bit more. So I've been enjoying those moments when I can do that. And I'm actually giving a pass to like get in and get close and focus on this one athlete. But yeah, I hope that continues honestly after, because I really enjoy doing that kind of stuff. Good.
I'm going to let Tessa take the next question. And then I have a question right for you, Fred. It's coming to you. It's about balancing two teams when Shauna and Chamberlain get to focus on one team. But Tessa, you got anything before I ask that question?
Nah, you just go ahead. Right, you Fred, seem really excited.
So I am excited about this question. So Fred, at the SEC, one thing and maybe Shauna and Chamberlain, they haven't felt the pressure. Well, maybe Shauna before when she was in other parts of the industry, but we have to balance both teams in a way that makes storytelling so much harder, because we want to be like, well, they're clearly winning, but the SEC is like, yeah, but there's this many schools and you got to be fair. And we get it. We totally get it. How do you do that when you're only one photographer having to cover both ends of the floor, Fred? How do you pull that?
God. I don't know. It's just I try to be fair. I don't have any bias, even though I know it's like, all right, if this team is the number one seed and this team is the number whatever seed, knowing that this team is better, I'm still going to treat the underdog with the same respect and give them the same level of content as if they were a championship team. You know, I want them to still have, I think about when they're done, they can still have those moments. That's what pictures are for, to, relive those moments. I always say I sacrifice living in the moment so you can relive the moment. So I try to make it, equal. It's one half this side, the other half this side, make sure, I'm evenly yoked is what I like to say. So it's tough. It is very tough. Football is even harder because the field is a lot bigger. So I think about runouts. I got to be on the 50-yard line going this way, hoping I can get, like I say, the same level of content for them both. But it is tough. I don't know how I balance it, but
y'all, he does. You blow my mind, Fred. Especially football, you blow my mind. I'm like, we couldn't even get it. We had 3 videographers, and we struggled with moments. And then I'm like, Fred's got it all.
Well, then the next day, that Sunday, I'm hurting because I'm literally running around, trying to get everything and trying to be, because there's plenty of times when I think this past SEC game, I was just walking around to my spot. I seen an open spot, and then it's boom, fumble. And I'm like, oh, I got to get it, and I'm there, and it's like, okay, but let me make sure I get to the other side and get this perspective. It's so hard, but I'm just thankful that I'm able to balance it, and these clients are confident in me to balance it, because I definitely say sometimes I wish I could be in just a single team spot, but I know the single team spots have their own challenges, but balancing 2 teams is definitely it's a tough one.
Shauna, you had a big smirk on your face during much of that. What kind of feedback or encouragement could you offer our friend, your new friend, our friend, Fred?
Yeah, I will say, as much as I loved shooting for like a wire service and like knowing, USA Today, whatever, but like I will say going from that and then going to shooting for a team, and then also in a pandemic, I've got like all this elbow room and I only have to focus on one team. And it's kind of a beautiful thing. I'm not going to lie. It's because I thought for years, I just thought, man, it would be kind of nice to not, you have a turn in the game that was unexpected. You think you're set up good. And then you're like, something happens and you're like, I have to run all the way back down to where I just ran here from. And there's a lot less of that. So you're probably in better shape. I mean, but yeah, I will say and even now though, for the SEC portal, they want us to, cover for both teams because people aren't sending photographers, and it's also just a nice courtesy thing. But I am finding for now, I am trying to just step into covering the other team for a moment, because I tend to get lost in something and try to really work it. And I'm like, no, just pop over there real quick, get some stuff. You don't have to go crazy with it, get what you need, and then get back to where your main focus is and where your position is best angled right now. But yeah, I feel that for many years I would be out there. I'm grateful that I'm here and doing both teams. This is really cool. And now, if I get something cool of another team, I kind of am bummed out a little bit because I'm like, yeah, I can't really do anything. Basketball blew up on the court, and I got all this stuff. And I mean, they ran it because I sent it to the SEC portal, but I was like, it's not the same. So
I appreciate that freedom, though. That's the thing on my side. I appreciate the freedom of not being, so focused, because I don't know. I've never done it, but it's it feels like it can get redundant and, shooting the same people and over and over in the same. It's just I appreciate the freedom, but also, like I say, the work is sometimes 10 times as much. I say, a lot of extra.
I think it balances out probably, but I definitely I just having flashbacks when you were talking about that moment of feeling like you finally ran to one end of the field and then something happens and you're like,
I've literally ran 100 yards because of an interception. With year, so it's tough.
I feel that. Yeah.
This question is gonna be for all 3 of you, and it's about preparing. How do you prepare? Tessa, take it away.
All right, so we're going to kind of circle back to story a little bit. When we're working at events, we are working in a team where it's okay, this is the general story, even though it's going to change. We prepare quite a bit so that we can pivot whenever we need to. And so how do you all prepare to tell a story through your photos? Even though with sports, it's going to change 47 more times than how it would in any other event. How do you come in prepared to tell your story?
So I think for me, when it comes to the story, I'm thinking about what's overall going to make the story understandable to people who aren't necessarily there. So what's the big picture? And that looks like what's not on the field, what's not right in front of me, what are those little moments happening in the crowd, what's happening in the warm-up, not necessarily just the biggest play of the game. So you kind of think from start to finish, like anything that's catching your eye that you would notice maybe as a spectator, like this person cheering next to me, like you want to hone in on those things and be able to make it more of a collective story of the event versus someone just scored a touchdown and that's the whole story.
100%.
I say my preparation is looking into like trying to make sure people can feel like they're there even when they're not. So I want to tell, like she said, the whole story from beginning to end. I want you to know like, oh, this was a key moment, but in this key moment, again, emotions. And, so I've had people tell me, hey, Fred, from your stories, I've felt like I was there. And especially now with COVID, with not so many people being there, it's like, hey, we have the opportunity to tell that story 10 times more, with more eyes on us and what we do. So I think that's the preparation, just making sure people can feel like they're there even when they're not.
Shauna, before you answer that, Tessa, one of my favorite, actually not one of my favorite, the favorite compliment I and we get is when people say, I felt like I was there. It is the biggest compliment to hear. Shauna, how do you prepare?
I gotta say, I'm probably a little more of a improvisational style, but now that I've been at Auburn a year, there are things that I can expect and know. And so like before I used to cover like games with USA Today, I would try to just like at least peruse like a story, like if a person was maybe gonna hit a milestone or something, to try to just know to look out for them and maybe get some extra pictures of them. So even if I missed the milestone actually happening, I still have something of them at the event. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I sort of am just drawn to certain things, and I feel like we kind of have things we're drawn to, and then that innately becomes our style without us really meaning to. Like I tend to like really close up faces, and people have been like, oh, well, you do like this emotion thing so well. And I'm like, I do. I don't think about it. It just, to me, I just like getting really up close on faces, I guess, because it's part of, kind of what you guys are talking about, that access and being able to bring people into a moment that fans might not normally get to see, but when you can be there and see just like the pores on the face of the football player and the paint, like I love that kind of like close, gritty stuff.
That's good.
So what I'm kind of hearing is that you all bring context and atmosphere to the people at home. And that is something like Clark talks about a lot. I literally had a conversation with our other videographer yesterday about how with sports, that's such a big thing, is bringing context and the atmosphere right into someone's living room. Because anybody can watch the game, but you all are providing the outskirts to really bring it to life, which is incredible.
So real time is really, really hard. Real time is challenging. You can't let that great photo be stuck on your card when it needs to get to Twitter or Instagram. I know, Shauna, you've talked about the pressure of speed before, but has there ever been a moment where you missed an opportunity, or because you stayed, you saw an opportunity when maybe your boss or somebody like a Josh Wetzel, he's like, I gotta have that photo, but you instinctively stayed and you got the photo that you would have missed had you done the real-time thing and gotten that photo off. Any exciting stories from anybody?
I mean, I have the kick six at Auburn.
No, you don't. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I was technically supposed to be at the other end of the field, but I stayed because I was like, what if Auburn? I mean, probably not, but what if? And yeah, okay, there's pluses and minuses. I have the shot of him running towards me, but like nobody has the shot of him actually catching like the ball and the initial the run. So I probably could have gotten that, but I love getting him running towards me. So that was.
If you don't know, if you're listening or watching and you don't know, we're gonna throw up a kick. Can you give us the kick six photo we can throw on here?
Yeah.
Later. Okay. So if you don't know the kick six, it's when Auburn ran back a missed field goal from Alabama to beat them in the last second of the game. It was one of the greatest sports moments in history, not just because we're Auburn fans, but because it was one of the greatest in history. And the week before that, I think we had an amazing play with Georgia that was equally as unbelievable.
I got that one too.
You got that one too?
That was my first season in sports full time. I'd been at Southwest before that. This was after I tried to get back in and got with USA Today. And yeah, that was the first frame in that series. Actually, it was him tipping the ball. I was very, very fortunate. And that was one of those where that was before wireless. I ran back to the workroom, sent it out as fast as I could. And my boss, who had been at Sports Illustrated, texted me and he was like, this is amazing. And it felt like that moment of like, I made the right decision to go into sports.
That's
so that was sorry. Side note, that was definitely an instance where I like got the moment, but then I ran as fast as I could to get it out. Yeah.
Incredible. Chamberlain, I'm gonna jump to you. And even if you don't tell the story of getting trucked by your beloved, I don't even remember his name, but we're gonna throw that photo up. There you go.
Remembers.
I remember.
I think the whole world remembers.
Yeah.
We're going to throw the picture up here just so you can see the last photo. You took a photo like right at the last second, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of explain that story if you want. If
you're okay with it, go for it.
Yeah, that's fine. Probably the most obvious answer to your question is when I was at the Georgia-Auburn game in 2019, and I was on the sidelines, a play was about to happen, and I stayed in for a moment that I probably should have moved for, but I didn't know that at the time. So I've got a great, view of Jake Fromm throwing to Harrion, and I never see it coming. Harrion catches the ball and kind of runs out of bounds, and the whole time I'm taking photos, but in the process of all that happening, I do get hit. His knee bumps into my eye and my camera like flings up into my head. So obviously I don't remember any of this. There are videos on YouTube where you can see it happen, and that's the only way I know exactly what was going on. But, I kind of flipped around, hit my head, and I was knocked unconscious for several minutes. Left that game on a stretcher, did not get to finish it, unfortunately.
Awful.
Ended up in the hospital, concussion, the whole thing. But later, when I'm back home and I'm on bed rest and, I'm not really supposed to be checking my phone, but my coworker who had taken my camera from the game and the incident had gone in to check my card and just see what was on there. And he texted me and said, you got the photo, like, here it is. This is the last photo in your role. And this is him like within a couple feet of you. And you can see like the panic in his eyes because he knows what's about to happen. And I clearly have no clue, but, probably should have moved. Didn't know that then. I'm a little bit more cautious now, but it was just one of those freak accidents, and it could have happened to anyone. It happened to Shauna the next year. Luckily, she did not end up with a concussion, but it's just one of the hazards of the job, I guess.
And it's so funny that you two haven't met until today. And now you've both been, I didn't even know it was the word trucked, but you've both been trucked.
Yeah. And I did have a mild concussion. It wasn't as bad. So I was like, I didn't get knocked out, but because I didn't think I had one. And people were like, oh, you're like that girl. I'm like, I know, I get it. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
That was like one of the things that struck me though, is like when I saw the photo that you posted that you were like, oh yeah. And I got this before it happened. I was like, are you kidding me? I love it. I'm so glad you're okay. And that's Shauna.
Yeah.
That's a good photo.
It's, you guys are seriously, in a way, you're on the front lines of the field. Like you're putting yourself at risk. And we know that firsthand because we watched it on national TV way back when. Fred, hopefully you have a better story. Come on, Fred.
I'll just say it was a right moment and a right time. It was 2016 after the Cavs had just won the championship. I am friends with Iman Shumpert, so he was like, hey, come with me and take some pictures. Sure. And the pictures he was posting, he said the team actually liked them, and they wanted me to come to Santa Barbara for their team camp. Now, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not thinking too much of it, trying to play it cool. And then I walk in, I see LeBron. I'm like, oh my God, it's LeBron. But the inside, I'm like, play it cool. Got to play it cool because nobody's really supposed to be here. And then I pull out my camera and they're like, hey, no pictures. Because it was like preseason camp. So it's like no picture. And I'm just sitting there every day for 3 days with my camera, just waiting. The last day, LeBron says, hey, come get a picture. And I'm running. running the half court, like hoping my settings are right. I'm like, please, I'm like, you only got a couple of seconds of their time. I take 3 pictures. The first one, Kevin Love's looking off somewhere. The second one, I think like 4 people's eyes were closed. And the third one, I took everybody's eyes are open. Everybody's in focus. Everybody's looking my way. I'm just like, thank you, God. Finally got this picture. And it was just like, I was just the right moment, the right time. I'm glad it just was, everything was right. Cause you know how it can be with our settings. And I was just glad everything was perfect for that one. So I just had to stay. That was my stay in there moment. Cause I really could have been like, if I'm not taking pictures, I'll just stay at the hotel or something.
No kidding.
But it was like, no, I'm just going to sit here and watch greatness play until he says, hey, it's your turn, so it was a good moment to kind of just be there.
So you've given us both spectrums. Everybody's given us both spectrums. It's like my mom says, y'all just go play games and take pictures and shoot videos at sporting events.
You just go have fun.
And then you've got both Shauna and Chamberlain here, like risking their lives. So it's an incredible. Honestly, it's incredible work that y'all do. And I'm not a photographer. I'm more of a videographer. But it is next time anybody that's listening is watching a sporting event, or a news event for that matter, and you see a photographer, hopefully you'll have a new appreciation for the incredible work that they do. That it's not easy, it's hard, especially when it's real time. It's way more challenging mentally, physically, emotionally sometimes. Tessa, you have anything you want to wrap with? Any thoughts? You good?
No, I've really enjoyed. I had to deep dive into all your Twitter feeds this week to prepare, and I just really enjoyed seeing all of your work, and excited to see what else y'all do.
Yep. Best of luck, Chamberlain, at Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck. Congratulations.
So awesome.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't follow, this is a great time to shout this out. If you don't follow these 3 on Instagram, immediately, unless you're driving, immediately.
It'll be in the show notes.
It'll be in the show notes. You have to follow these 3 on Instagram if you want to be inspired and learn how to be a great storyteller through photography. Thank you so much from Tessa and I, from Will here at Reverb. We'll see, hopefully you soon in the SEC. I know we'll see Fred very soon, and maybe we'll see Chamberlain and Shauna soon. So
fingers crossed.
That's all for now. We'll see you next week.
Hey guys. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Reverb Roundtable. As a photographer, I learned so much from Shauna, Chamberlain, and Fred. I love how practical this episode was, and I really hope that you found it as inspiring as I did. Just a reminder, we have show notes. We know that many of you are listening to this podcast while driving to work or while working on a project, so we are going to do the heavy lifting and compile notes for you. All you need to do is go to rvrb.cc/podcast and subscribe to our email list. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode, and we'll see you next week.